Thank you for taking the time to return to my channel and watch this video. Tonight we're going to discuss black damp and fire damp in relation to coal mines. These are two primary killers of both active mines and abandoned mines. That's why you don't go into abandoned mines, primarily with black damp. Now, what black damp is, it's simply a depletion of oxygen in the normal atmospheric baseline of oxygen. Outside in the world, it's 20.8 to 20.9. And anything under 20.8, where it starts to go down, you're going to be hitting most likely black damp in a mine. What black damp is, it's a lack of oxygen, a depletion of oxygen. But what's going on is there's either a lack of oxygen because there's only finite entrances into the mine, and mine air is not circulating because there are man-made voids into the earth. So what's occurring is air's not flowing, but more importantly, and seasonally this happens more in the summertime due to the physics of density of air, how it sits. Because black damp is a heavier gas. And what black damp is, when oxygen hits the coal vein, the coal starts to degrade. And it sweats off, in a sense, carbon dioxide, and sometimes there's a mixture of nitrogen in there. Sometimes they have a little bit of hydrogen sulfide gas. But what is very scary about black damp is it's odorless, colorless, and if you don't have one of these safety items here, it will literally choke you to death. It truly will snuff the life out of you. I talked to a coal miner, I believe it was Lawrence Olszynski, the guy I have on my Dorrance video. He said that gentleman ate his lunch and sat in this one spot and didn't have his flame lamp, like the one centered that's lit, like this one here. And he asphyxiated. Can't remember if he died or was rescued, but I mean, that is just it can hit real quick. So the normal outside percentage of air is 20.8 to 20.9. I've only ever seen 20.8 on digital detectors. And a flame will go out. I know I misspoke in other videos saying 18. It's like 16.25 is when a flame lamp will go out, and you can't even light a lighter in that kind of depletion of oxygen. But what happens is it truly just does suffocate you, and it will come on quick and it will come on fast. And like I said, it's odorless, colorless. You can't sense it, and it's one of the biggest killers. If you go into abandoned coal mines, I would rethink that. So fire damp is simply methane, and methane occurs from the formation of the coal when it was being formed, either through like the Pangea period or the Jurassic period, and that coal is just a byproduct of the rot from the vegetation. And what goes on there is it sits trapped in the coal itself, or in the strata, the rock strata above the coal, for tens to hundreds of millions of years until humans extract the coal and release into the open atmosphere. And what's scary about that is it can't be smelled or seen also. And in very low concentrations, it will explode. That's why we have these lamps here. The first ways of detecting both black damp and methane were very primitive, and they improved obviously over the years. Now it's all digital, very digitalized. But here on the left, we just have a simple candle burning, and that is great and all. That will extinguish 16.25, 16.5, 17, something like that. So obviously when that candle would go out, they would know that, you know, there wasn't enough oxygen, and they would get out. Bad thing about that is that's an open flame. So when you hit natural gas, especially in bituminous mines and definitely parts of the anthracite fields, you're gonna quickly kick up all that methane, and it's gonna go boom. It's gonna go boom real quick. So the next method, these candles don't last too long, were these primitive, very primitive teapot oil wick lamps. And these originally ran on whale oil, actual whale oil from the ocean. And these would have burned on kerosene. This one actually has the original wick from the 1870s, 1860s, and it was a Civil War era. Very primitive. These were made by a blacksmith, most likely. Then they upgraded to these machined tight teapot oil wick lamps, like this bigger one here. And that was made in Scranton. And that's circa about the 1880s, 1890s. So these would show black damp, and that would work just fine, except they would hit methane again. That would explode. So to test for damp, both black and fire damp, they would bring one of these down into the lines, and I'll show you here in a second. Oh, he's flying around. That's your hint. Try and get this little guy. Okay, buddy. It's okay, my little buddy. I know. I got you. They would bring one of these little guys here. Now this is not a canary. Right, beepers? This is not a canary. This is a budgie from Australia. But this is the same concept because they have such small air sacs that they would quickly asphyxiate with the black damp and or the methane. It's extremely cruel, but it was, you know, part of just the brutality of living in the 19th century industrialized America. They would have, I guess, a ton of these canaries on hand, because now they're pretty pricey. What are you doing? Oh, he's going to bite me. He's a nice little bird, but he can be an angry little bird. Right, Mr. Peanut?
Yep.
So, these little animals, I'm going to put him back in his cage. Can you open the cage up?
Yeah. Everyone's got like, oh my god, this video is so cool and I love it.
So, they would put those poor parrots, or parakeets, or canaries into the mine. They would asphyxiate. So when they returned to their chambers and they saw a dead bird, they would know, hey, this is not a safe chamber. And they would take the bird out or run out themselves. And then they would leave, put up some bratticing. And what bratticing is like some cloth material or a wood door to circulate air better throughout that condition, and then return with another bird, see if that bird would survive. So it's pretty macabre. Luckily for the birds, they came out with this first generation Davies lamp. And what that is this one right here. Now all this is a wick. Right here. That would be lit, again, through either whale oil or kerosene or like a white gas, which is like a refined gasoline. And it would keep the flame safe. And how it does that is this wire gauze, which is brass usually. Watch this. The flame can't enter through. So you have your same principles that black damp will extinguish the lamp at 16.25, so the flame will start getting low and just go out. And you'll relight it and it won't light, it'll just keep doing that. But now, more importantly, the methane cannot be ignited because this flame is inside of this, like this, and it's protected. It will not detonate. So, that had a single mesh lining, and this one was made in Scranton also, which is cool. I got that actually from a Hard Rock mine collection out in, I think, Montana, and it came back to the anthracite fields, which I thought was interesting, because that thing's from the late 1800s. Then we had our upgrades to that, and this flame lamp here, to the right of that, which is all brass, has 2 mesh nets, and I think the thinking behind that is just another layer of safety so that flame doesn't expose to the methane and detonate. And here we have a all brass but smaller one. This is from 1960, and that thing's heavy, very heavy because of brass. Here we have an all aluminum Kohler lamp, which is the same as the one to the left, but it's so much lighter. That one is incredibly light and durable, and the aluminum, believe it or not, is very strong. These things get dented up hardcore in mines, but they keep working just fine unless you break the glass. Now we have carbides here. These are 2 carbides. These really did not detect for black damp too well because the gas literally just got too hot. It burned at such a high temp. It didn't need that much oxygen to burn. So going off of that wasn't a good idea because that can burn lower than 16.25. Now I don't know about methane. I still think, I know they were using these up until the 40s, which is pretty astounding. But I would imagine these could trigger methane explosions. Now here, if you hit black damp, the miners till this day carry this on them. This is a self-contained breathing apparatus. It's a closed circuit. So miners keep these on them. These blue seals mean moisture has not gotten in. So this has a blue seal also. One of these went pink. Right here, this one went pink, so there's some moisture in this one. I don't know if this one would last too long. It probably would. They're rated for about an hour. So hypothetically, if you get into a real issue and you're asphyxiating, you have to get out of the mine, you're going to pop open that canister I just had in front of the camera. And this is going to go around your neck. This is a closed circuit breathing apparatus, so it's going to go in your mouth. You're going to bite down on that. You're going to breathe through that. It's pretty awkward. I popped this one open to test it. It lasts about an hour and a half. These 2 little snorkels are going to go over your nose. It's going to pinch off your nose so you can't breathe through that and breathe in the damp or methane. This is also for methane, because you can asphyxiate on methane too. It's not a matter of just causing explosions. It's an asphyxiation threat. So this will fill with air, and it's quiet. It's just a chemical reaction, and it works its physics in here, works its magic. And this, you just breathe in and breathe out, and breathe in and breathe out. It gives you pretty good oxygen rate too, because I remember using this. It must have opened up my lungs, because I felt pretty euphoric for an hour or 2 afterwards. It felt great. I mean, it really opened my lungs up. I just felt like a 15-year-old again after breathing this thing. So this was more for illumination. These really weren't safety lamps, if anything. I don't know if you know anything about the methane explosion risk, because again, it's almost like an acetylene gas. You put carbide tablets in here. Now these came online about World War I, so about 1914-ish, a little bit earlier. It lasts up until the 40s, shockingly. You pop this open, you put water in there. This is your drip rate amount. This would be slower, this would be more. And then this has a flint. This one's not working. So the water is going to drip over the carbide, and it's going to give off like an acetylene type gas. And then you're going to trap it, and then you're going to light it. And it's going to go poof. And this will give you a good amount. This reflector will give a lot of light. Now this is a self-rescue for carbon monoxide. So if there's ever an explosion and you have to get out, this is not a rebreather, but this will protect you with carbon monoxide, which is pretty spooky. So another thing about black damp, at 17% oxygen, you have a rate of about 5,000 feet above sea level. That's the difficulty in breathing. The rules say you should not have more than any less than 19.5% oxygen. So if you ever go into an abandoned mine, you're really taking your life into your hands and hands of rescuers. So don't go in because you can easily asphyxiate. I've spoke to many people that worked in the mining industry. And black damp is very prevalent. Again, you cannot taste it, you cannot see it, you cannot smell it. You can't. It just, you kick it up too. That's the spooky thing. It sits low on the ground in pockets, and you'll walk through it, and it will start to chase you. It will start to follow you down tunnels, either into the mine, or if you're trying to exit, it will start following you out. So, I mean, you literally can walk past it too and be fine, and before you know, you've trapped yourself because you stirred so much of it up. And methane sits higher, so if you're in a abandoned mine or an active, and you accidentally just cause a spark, or if you're a lighter and there's smokers out there, or if you literally just spark something by dropping a rock and it hits a rail or whatever, it can cause a detonation. Methane's not as prevalent as black damp, but still, it's definitely a risk. So make sure to stay out and stay alive.